Hello, so my name's Liz Brown. I work in the international team and I'm going to be here today talking you through student life as an international student at Bournemouth University. We also have Wesley, who is one of our first year students. He's currently studying English language in the Faculty of Media, and he's going to be just chipping in with a few points on a couple of the slides, and then he'll be able to take your Q&As as well at the end of the session. This presentation is going to go through opportunities that we offer at BU to help you settle in and get involved in the Bournemouth University community. I'm also going to go through areas around Bournemouth and also kind of further afield places that may be of interest that you want to visit while you're living in the UK. And also going to cover things that this presentation is mainly going to cover stuff that obviously isn't about academia, and although that is extremely important and we know that's what you've come to do to study your course, it's also about getting to know the UK. It might be the only time that you live abroad and you really want to maximise all the opportunities that we can offer you. So it just covers a really wide spectrum of things that you guys can get involved in while you're here. Okay. So, location, location, location. Bournemouth is a beautiful part of the UK. It has some of the best weather in the UK that we can offer you. Unfortunately, it does still rain here, but it is still it is still a beautiful part of the country, and you know that by it's actually a really popular tourist destination for people who live within the UK. They come and visit Bournemouth on their holidays. So you're lucky. Our students are very lucky to be here and having all of that on their doorstep. It's set in the south of England, and I'll show you a map on the next slide if you're not too sure exactly where it is. We've got loads of sandy beaches that can be visited during your break time, and a lot of the accommodation that we have on campus is a few minutes walk to those beaches. We're also really near kind of historic, beautiful old villages and towns, two of which being Poole and Christchurch, which have got things like cathedrals and lots of really historic old places that we know that a lot of our international students like to visit. We're also near two very beautiful areas of nature, the New Forest, which is a vast forest land with wild ponies and deers and things like that. That's a really short train ride, and also the Isle of Purbeck, which is a beautiful part of England that people visit from all around. We're also only 2 hours by train to London, so we've got some great networks into London by travel, by rail and bus, but then also out across the whole of the UK. And we're also very handy for flights into mainland Europe as well. We've got two airports on our doorstep, which are Bournemouth and Southampton, and they fly out into Europe regularly through the year. So we've got lots of different things that I'm going to talk about today and things that you can get involved in, and these are just a few little images taken from a couple of our Instagram accounts of things our students have been getting involved in. So here is our map. So as you can see, we're down on the south coast within the little red circle at the bottom. If you're not familiar with the UK, then basically the further that you travel down, the warmer the weather gets. As you can see, I've put down some train times here, so if you are interested in seeing the rest of the UK whilst you're studying, you can see that we're really conveniently located for things like Oxford, London, Bristol, and then further afield if you're interested in things like Manchester, Liverpool, there's a straight direct train that goes up to Manchester which takes about 5 hours. And then also places like Paris or Venice, Milan, Munich, Dublin, all the local airports will fly out to those locations. So if budget permits and you've got some friends and you've got time, that might be an activity that you want to partake in whilst you're studying. So when you arrive, we have a settling in period which we call week 1. During week 1 we're going to have a lot of activities specifically aimed at EU and international students, as well as loads of different activities for all students that they can get involved in, and that's for everyone of course. There will be induction and enrolment that you have to take part on, but then there'll be lots of optional things, so campus tours, and there'll be lectures and workshops that will help you with things like adjusting to life in the UK, some shopping and budgeting tips. So for example, some supermarkets are more expensive than others, and we give you tips on how to manage your budget while you're here. key things like immigration, if you're on a tier 4 visa, what you need to know and what you need to do when you arrive, and things like personal safety. So Bournemouth University is a very safe place to live and work, but obviously, as with anywhere, it's always good to understand what the local rules are in terms of the police and what you can and can't do. For example, cycling on the road and on the pavement, little things like that, and we get the police to come in and just do a really kind of comprehensive talk with our international students, so they get an idea of what help is available if needed, and what they can and can't do within the UK law. More about that will come up later. We'll be hosting more seminars and webinars online in June and July and August that will be specifically about arrivals. So if you do have more questions about that, then please join our webinars later in the month. Okay, so fun things to do in Bournemouth. Bournemouth has got lots of different things. Because we're a tourist location, students are really lucky that there's always lots of activities going on that are not specifically for students, but they're for the general public, which obviously means everyone can get involved in. So we have lots of festivals and free art exhibitions and things like that that all the students can get involved in. There's a big balloon you can see in one of the photos there. It's actually tethered to the ground, but it's a really fun thing to do when you first arrive. I think it costs around kind of £7, £10 English pounds. You can go with your friends and it takes you up to a certain point and it gives you a really good view of the whole of Bournemouth and Poole, and you can have it's just a really beautiful thing to do. You can also take a stroll through our gardens there and then down to the seafront along our pier, and if you're a bit of an adrenaline junkie, there's actually a zip wire that takes you from the top of the pier down to the beach. There's oceanariums. We also have our own Premiership club at Bournemouth, which is the AFC Bournemouth, locally known as the Cherries, and that's also a really great atmosphere on match day that people watch and support the Cherries at local pubs and with friends and things like that. And some of our students actually have got working as stewards at AFC Bournemouth, which has been a great opportunity for them to watch lots of different Premiership matches. And also just enjoying meals. We have a really great choice of restaurants from around the world in Bournemouth. So obviously not just getting used to UK food, but you can also sample lots of different food from all around the world. Trips and tours. So as I've mentioned, we're quite conveniently located for lots of different things. The Student Union, which is something I'll talk about in a minute, run lots of trips for international EU students and also UK students if they've never done it, if they've never been to these places before and they're interested. You can pick up tickets when you're here, and they normally cost around £25, but it is a bit more expensive. If you see at the bottom in the photo, that was when I visited the Harry Potter studios, which I'm sure everyone knows Harry Potter, and there's an amazing studio tour of the actual studios where they filmed a lot of the filming for Harry Potter, and that's a fantastic tour, but that is a little bit more pricey, but it is worth doing if you're a fan. And the Student Union run tours, take you on a bus and take you up and bring you back again. That's a really fun thing to do with friends. They also do things like Bath and Oxford, Brighton, Chichester. They're all like really interesting places to go visit whilst you're in the UK. So these are just some images that I've picked out as well of things I thought people might be interested in seeing and things that they'd like to visit during their first term. The image of the cathedral is that's the Christchurch Cathedral at Christmas, which is a beautiful old cathedral that's just about a 10-15 minute train ride up from Bournemouth, and that's a really lovely thing to do whilst you're here over a Christmas period, to go and visit. And obviously even if you're not Christian culture, it's just interesting to maybe go and observe and have a look and see how different people celebrate Christmas around the world. And obviously you can see the iconic London Big Ben there as well, which is another very popular tourist destination for our students. So clubs and societies. As I mentioned before, we have something called SUBU, which is our student union, student union for Bournemouth University. All UK universities will have a student union, and they're actually run by students for students. So they're kind of a separate organisation that sits next to Bournemouth University. And they offer lots of different clubs and societies for all different reasons. So you can have things for different nationalities, for sports, or just for really fun things like baking or photography, to really focus and help you make friends with people who have got similar hobbies to you. As an example, we didn't used to have a society for Indian students, and they all got together and created the Bournemouth Bharati Club, which has been running for a few years now and has become really successful. And that was just from a couple of people saying, hey, I'd love to do this, and the student union was like, yeah, sure, gave them some funding to set it up, and now they've been running it, and it's a really great network for students from India to get to know people, especially in the first few weeks. Wes is a really keen member of one of our societies, so he's going to tell us a little bit about that now.
Yeah, I am from the European Society. I was the events officer this year, and next year I'm going to be president. Basically what we do is we are a community for all international students, not just European students, and we go for socials. So we go laser gaming, we have a Christmas special, we have one for Halloween. We also get involved in big events run by SUBU, such as One World Day, which is absolutely great. I think what's nice about the European Society is that it really gives you that sense of community, and maybe before when you're in your own country you don't really feel like you don't really feel connected to other people who are from another country, but once you're all international it makes a lot of sense, and it's actually really nice to get to know each other.
Thank you. And the other thing I wanted to mention was actually this year is going to be really exciting for us. So starting in September, we have our first ever international student who's been voted by our students to be the next president of the student union. And so that's a really positive movement for us, because hopefully therefore he'll be able to bring a different views and different opinions across to the student union as well, and maybe bring in some new thoughts and things like that, which is great. Okay, so if I have a look at the next slide. So something else that SUBU can offer our students when they get here, which just adds a different element to your life, and maybe something you've never done before or considered. Something we often do within British culture is something called volunteering, and I'm sure it happens in every culture but maybe just falls under different guises, is something that you can get involved with, and it's actually work but it's unpaid. So some people might not want to do that if they're looking to use their spare time to earn some extra cash. But if you do have the time and it's something that you'd like to get involved in, the student union has got loads of different opportunities for people who maybe it's just one day a term, or maybe it's one afternoon every week, and it could be doing things like, for example, working on nature projects locally, helping out local people clear a woodland, for example, that needed clearing for a new park. Or it could be helping older people, just going and listening and talking to them, maybe telling them a bit about where you're from, your culture, just to help people that are maybe lonely. It could be doing something creative, or it could be setting up your own event to raise money for a particular charity that you're really interested in. So there's loads of different opportunities, and SUBU will help you with whatever you're interested in. It's also really great for your CV. So when you leave the university, obviously you'll leave with your degree, but it also adds another element. So you might leave with an MBA or an undergraduate degree in events management, but actually practically also having given up your time and maybe arranging an event for a charity gala, or maybe going along to help out in someone's doing some social media stuff for a charity, giving up your time, actually looks really good on your CV and can help you stand out when you go back to your own country and say, well, I got involved in this, it was unpaid, but I did this, and I had these responsibilities. And that's something that UK students will actively also get involved in. And it also means that you get to actually meet people that aren't students. So there are people just from the UK that may be involved in different things, and that's also really great to help you with your English language, and just learning a bit more about British culture. Okay, so for anyone listening out there that is into sports, you'll be pleased to know that we have lots of different sporting opportunities for you to get involved in outside of your academic life. So we have Sports BU at the university, and we have lots of different facilities on campus that are available that people can book themselves, or they can take part in different teams. So you can see on the screen here we have dance studios, we have a health zone, so things like physiotherapy is available for if you need it, astroturfs, badminton courts, lots of different things that you can do, obviously a gym, and there's a subsidised rate for students. If you're not that sporty but you want to get involved in something just for a bit of stress busting or to help you meet some new friends, there are lots of different classes that you can get involved in, so just general fitness classes. There's instructional courses, so things like learning a new martial art or learning to dance is a really fun thing to do. It also helps you take your mind off your course, so if you can get involved in something else, even if it's just one class a week, it might just be something that gives you that little bit of a break and helps relieve any stress that you might have. We have lots of teams like netball or football, table tennis, which is also a really great way to meet new people and get involved, and even if you've never done it before, it's something new to try and give it a go. For those of us, not me, who are particularly sporty and have a specialist in a particular area, so maybe that you're really good at tennis or cricket or golf, we have particular areas that us at university specialise in. So that's cricket, tennis, golf and volleyball, and we compete with other teams called varsity teams around the UK. So if there are any particular sports that you're interested in and you already are playing at quite a high level, please do get in contact with the sports team, with Sports BU before you come, and let them know. And it may be that you can also apply for one of the sporting scholarships that we have on offer, and all the information about them is on our website, or you can ask me later in the Q&As. Music, so maybe we've got a couple of music fans listening today. We as a university embrace all things musical, and we really look for lots of diversity and ambitious people that are looking to improve or just maybe learn a new musical skill. So we have lots of different things. We have big bands, we have lots of obviously students that have their own little bands and they're looking to maybe have a drummer or a guitar player, and they'll advertise that at the beginning of term, and you can get involved in things that way. It may be singing, so we have like tuition lessons and also choirs that you can get involved in, and again they're fantastic ways of meeting new people and just having a relaxing and not thinking about your course, and just having that time in the week where you can just concentrate on something a bit different and a bit of fun. We also have music scholarships as well, so if you are interested in and you specialise in particular musician, and that could be your voice as well, then do have a look on our website, because it may be that you can apply for our music scholarship. Okay. So the next section that we wanted to go through is about BU's global community. So I'm sure a lot of people when they arrive, they are very much interested in getting to know people from the UK, but also getting to know people from all across the world, because it's a fantastic opportunity to really get to know different cultures. It may be that you'll never get the chance to visit America or India or somewhere like that, but actually coming to a university in the UK, you will be surrounded by people from lots of different countries and communities, and that's fantastic for those, you know, for when you then get a job in the workplace and you need to work with different types of culture, you'll get that experience. We also know, as an international student, you make a really valuable contribution to the university, and we want to embrace that and make sure that we celebrate those things. So things like Diwali, Chinese New Year, that we really showcase that on campus. What we would ask is think about anything that you can bring from home that might help you to contribute to events on campus. So for example, maybe just pack one item of traditional clothing that may help you celebrate. So for example, when it is Diwali, or if we're having, as the European Society had, a particular event where we ask people to come in traditional outfits, you can do that and then really showcase your culture and your traditions, and people will be so interested. That would be a fantastic thing to do. I'm going to ask Wes to jump in here and tell us a little bit more about things that he does when he's involved in his society.
Apart from the European Society, I'm also on the Global Buddy Program, which is amazing. If you're coming to Bournemouth University, I would really recommend you go on that program. Basically what we do is you get put into a group with other international students and with a leader who is usually a second-year student, and you just talk. It's pre-arrival as well, so a Facebook group is being made, and then you can ask your questions. You can already sort of like start settling in from still your home country. After that, we have regular meetings. We are just pretty informal, really relaxed. You can go on trips with your buddy group to different cities. It's basically a bunch of fun activities, and apart from that, we learn about each other's culture. So it's also a place to ask questions and to just be open-minded and to learn.
Thanks, Wes. And we will be emailing everybody in our arrivals emails. So prior to coming to starting in September, we'll send you a series of emails. So keep an eye out. And in those emails, we'll have things like, for example, arrivals information. So airport transfers, getting to the UK, what you do when you arrive, if you're arriving in the middle of the night, what you do, things like that. And within those emails, there'll be information about Global Buddies and how you can, as Wes said, how you can join the scheme before you start in September. And like Wes explained, it's a fantastic way to help you feel a little less nervous about travelling over to the UK and starting your university course, and hopefully kind of ease you into that as well. Thanks, Wes. Okay. So obviously doing lots of extra activities, volunteering, doing social things is all really fun and interesting and engaging and will definitely benefit you. But it is part of a lot of students, it's a realistic thing that they do actually also have to undertake part-time jobs whilst they're studying their course. Obviously, you need to know how much you can balance that with your workload. As we've stressed, obviously, as you guys know, your course is the most important thing. But if you do need to work or you want to work for the experience of working in the UK, Bournemouth has a lot of opportunities for part-time work because we are a tourist town. There's lots of hotels, there's shops, there's restaurants, and they're all really keen to hire students to be able to work around the particular hours, for example, later nights or early mornings, etc., that maybe other people might not want to do. We will help you with workshops at the beginning of the term about what you need to do to get a job. So for example, how to apply. Maybe the application process is slightly different in the UK to what you're used to. How you get a national insurance number, which is something that you need when you're applying for work in the UK. And if you are under a Tier 4 visa, what restrictions are placed on you in terms of work. So all that information will be told to you when you arrive. Bournemouth University also offers work opportunities, which a lot of students take. So for example, student ambassadors. I myself actually hire international students to come and work in my office, doing, sometimes it might be doing some admin work, but sometimes it's taking people around campus, and sometimes it's actually in their home country. So if they are, for example, gone home for Christmas in India and I've got an event in India, then we would ask them to work in their home country alongside one of our work colleagues in India to help with an event, for example. You can also work in the library, or you can work in the number of shops that we have on campus. So there's lots of opportunities. Wes is actually a student that does work part-time, so I'm just going to ask him to just again chip in and let us know what he does and how he fits that around his studies.
Yeah, I work at the beach, which has been lovely for the past couple of weeks with the weather that we've been having. I would advise everyone to have a look at how you prepare a CV in the UK, because that is something that I struggle with a little. Other than that, I'm staying here over summer, and as Liz said, because Bournemouth is such a tourist place, it's quite easy to get a job, to be honest, and there are a lot of opportunities for international employees to get a job as well.
Thank you. Okay. So the next slide, some of you may have come to the UK a lot, some may just may have been living in the UK a while and completely get this the kind of British culture side of things. From some of you, you may be from across the world and you've never been to the UK before, and there might be a few things that we've just learned from experience that international students maybe sometimes get a bit surprised by or didn't really know. So please bear with me and don't feel that I am saying obvious things to you, because I'm trying to cover a lot of different things that people might want to know. So you may have certain expectations of the UK before you come. Some will be true. So for example, you may have heard that British people love queuing. It's very true. We do. We love a queue. And if you see people queuing and then certain people jumping in, that can be seen as extremely rude and people will tell you off. We also say please and thank you a lot, and sometimes even when we don't need to, but we'll just say sorry even though we don't need to say sorry. Being punctual and being on time is really important, and that is something that some international students struggle with when they first join the university. For example, if they don't arrive on time to a lecture, lecturers have been known just to tell the student to leave, which can be very embarrassing for students. So we just say to people, please do try and have a look and find out what time your lectures are, and make sure that you arrive at least 5 to 10 minutes before so you can go in, take a seat and start on time for your lectures. Something that some of our international students can be a bit surprised by is that our UK students do tend to drink quite a lot of alcohol, especially undergraduates, and in the first term a lot of students arrive with a very much party mentality and they want to come and have a good time, and it can be quite surprising for some students that come from cultures that aren't used to that. But we just want to say, please don't worry. If you are an undergraduate or even if you're a postgraduate and you have people in your halls, for example, that are doing that, there's loads of different ways that you can also have fun and get involved. We do lots of different nights aimed at students that don't want to necessarily go to the pub or go out clubbing. We do things like film nights, quiz nights, we do fish and chips on the beach, we do bike rides. So there's loads of different ways that you can get involved socially and have fun that doesn't involve around alcohol. We have it's got here that we talk about the weather a lot. It might be something that surprises you. The UK weather changes rapidly within one day. So for example, this week, Monday, it was really hot and I was at the beach with my child and it was a really, really warm day. And then today, it's actually pouring with rain and it looks like it could be the middle of December. So we tend to talk about weather a lot because the weather changes a lot and it's just something easy to talk about. University staff often will be called by their first name, and that can sometimes be a bit of a surprise for students. So rather than Mr. Smith or Professor something or other, we will just call them by their first name, Liam or Elizabeth, something like that. So that can often be a little bit surprising, and it isn't any way less taken as insult or anything like that. It's just that we tend to be a little bit more informal. The other thing that some people find a little bit odd is that we would often say, refer to each other as love or darling quite affectionately to maybe a stranger, and that's just a turn of phrase and it doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's just how people refer to each other when they're talking. The other thing that some people find surprising is how is just about diversity and equality. We're an extremely diverse university and Bournemouth as a town. And for example, you may in the street see openly gay couples kissing or holding hands, and sometimes some cultures find that different to what they're used to, but obviously it just is about learning about within the UK how we are and just settling into that and just observing and being aware of the differences between different cultures, which is exactly why you're coming here, and to learn these new things and hopefully absorb them and understand why people do things differently. Okay, so I'll have a look. Right, I've already touched on it already, but the next one is about weather. So when you arrive in September, we are unfortunately going into our colder months. So if you're not aware of the UK seasons, we very much have different seasons through the year. So when you arrive in September, we will be coming into winter and it will be colder. So you're looking at an average temperature of around 15 degrees Celsius. It can be unpredictable, so it could be really warm one day and then really wet and windy the next day. And it will probably be more rain and wind than you're used to. But then the one thing to hold on to is that once you get through kind of December, January, February, it will only get warmer and better as you finish your degree, and then hopefully by the end of the year, so it's now when people are doing their final years and their final year courses, their dissertations, you hopefully have a bit more free time when the weather's a bit nicer, which is a positive. If you are travelling overseas, quite a distance, then we just recommend that you do bring, for example, warm jumpers and warm coats in your hand luggage for you to be put on straight away when you arrive. Okay, British food. I'm sure it's all something that you're really looking forward to sampling. I know that we have, that we don't always have necessarily the best reputation for food, but there is lots of different fun and interesting foods that you can try in Bournemouth. British food is very diverse, so we don't just eat kind of fish and chips and roast dinners. We also very much enjoy a different range of international foods, so Chinese food, Indian food, things like that. But they might not be exactly the same as what you're used to in your own country. It may be slightly different. We find that our Asian students are surprised by the amount of dairy that we have within our diet. And the other thing to note is things like takeaways in restaurants can be quite expensive, and they're often seen as a treat rather than a day-to-day thing. We have lots of international supermarkets in Bournemouth, so if you are hoping to eat food that you're used to from home, or you want to, for example, cook a specific dish for your new housemates, you will hopefully be able to find those foods within the town, within specialist supermarkets. And cooking for your housemates is a really good way to get to know everyone, and I'm sure if you can learn to cook maybe one or two meals that maybe you know you're going to miss at home that your mum or dad cook really well, it might be worth just learning them now, and then when you come to move into your home with your new friends, you can to cook them a meal from your home, and not only will it help you feel that little less homesick, but it also give them, I'm sure the people that you live with would love to try that and be really grateful for that experience as well. We find that some of our international students moan a little bit that they put weight on when they first come to the university because of the diet, a very kind of lots of bread and things like that we have in the UK, but that's the same for UK students as well, to be honest. So please don't worry about it, and there is definitely healthy options available, and you can just obviously learn to cook your own food and do what you want to do, maybe taking some elements of British food and then some elements of things that you have at home and combining that. But we'll be able to give you a lot more information about that when you start, about the right shops to go to and where to pick things up. Okay, so that's the presentation for now. We've got some time now for Q&As, and I just wondered if there was anyone out there